Hey everyone, it's my birthday today, and as usual, missing Master a lot. So here comes another I Miss You medley. Um, here it goes. मैं तेनू समझावा की ना तेरे वाजो लगदा जी मैं तेनू समझावा की ना तेरे वाजो लगदा जी तू ही जाने प्यार मेरा करा मैं इंतजार तेरा तू दिल तू यो जान मेरी मैं तेनू समझावा की ना तेरे बाजो लगदा जी मेरे दिल विच रह के मेरे दिल दा हाल न जाने तेरे बाजों कलियां बह के रोंदे नैन न माने जीना मेरा है मरना मेरा नाल तेरे सिकर एतबार मेरा करा मैं इंतजार तेरा तू दिल तू यो जान मेरी मैं तेनू समझावा की ना तेरे वाजो लगदा जी चांदनी रातें चांदनी रातें चांदनी रातें ओ चांदनी रातें सब जग सोए हम जागे तारों से करे बातें चांदनी रातें तकते तकते टूटी जाए आस पियाना आए रे तकते तकते शाम सवेरे दर्द अनोखे उठे जिया घबराए रे शाम सवेरे रातों ने मेरी नींद लूट ली रातों ने मेरी नींद लूट ली दिन के चैन चुराए दुखियां आंखें ढूंढ रही हैं वही प्यार की बातें चांदनी रातें ओ चांदनी रातें चांदनी रातें ओ चांदनी रातें पिछली रात में हम ये सोच के छुपके रोए रे पिछली रात में सुख की नींद में मीत हमारे देश पर आए सोए रे सुख की नींद में दिल की धड़कने तुझे पुकारे दिल की धड़कने तुझे पुकारे आजा प्यारे आजा बैठ के तन्हाई में कर ले सुख दुख की दो बातें चांदनी रातें चांदनी रातें चांदनी रातें ओ चांदनी रातें सब जग सोए हम जागे तुझसे ही करे बातें चांदनी रातें ओ चांदनी रातें Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's satsang. So today's video is composed by Manish ji. Ishwar Puriji talks about his favorite Shabad, followed by the Shabad itself, Jo Mange Thakur Apne Te Soi Soi Devi. Then we have introduction by Michael. After that, Puneet is going to read. The topic is story of Sardar Bahadur Jagat Singh Ji. After that, we'll have a short dhyan session of 5 minutes to put our attention towards our beloved. After that, we'll play a master's video and then we'll do group meditation with love and devotion. Thank you so much. Michael, you can start with the video now.
Soi soi deve Ram Sadguru, very nice, beautiful, beautiful. It has been my favorite song for a long time, for many years. Many years means maybe about 70 years. That is many years. And this was sung by the chanters at the Dera, great master's time. Sometimes this song was sung by one of the chanters whose name was Udaru. Udaru means one who will fly away. That is pen name. His real name was something else, but we all called him Udaru, that he can fly away with his songs. And he used to sing the song before great master gave a discourse. And he sang and people were just filled with love because here he's saying the Sadguru, the Thakur, the Lord gives you whatever you ask for him. Just be ready to ask with faith, love and devotion. He'll give you anything you want. He is a giver. His generosity has no bounds. Whatever you ask, he gives you. Don't ask with doubt, though. Ask with faith.
My dear holy family, welcome to satsang. Welcome to the satsang of the most humble human being in the creation of Lord God. Who's the most humble human being? He's the perfect living master. Ishwar Puri Ji, welcome all to his satsang, to his blessings and to his grace. As God only lives in the person that is the most humble in this world, the person who never calls himself anything. Because the sun does not have to call itself a sun. The light of its light shines everywhere and everybody gets nourished from its light and everybody lives from the light of the sun. The same thing, the perfect master, the Sadguru of the universe, the Lord of the souls, the heart of the hearts doesn't have to call himself a master because he shines with that glory, he shines with that beauty and he doesn't need a title. So I would like to start satsang by putting my head on his feet, on the feet of the most humble person. In this way, I will fill my cup, and I hope you will do the same, that you also will put your head where it belongs, on the feet of the perfect living master, so we can all fill our cups, and we can all enjoy this holy dance, the holy dance of God, the satsang of truth. So I would like to start with a story. And there was once a king who was in the forest and he ran out of water. And he was very, very, very thirsty. So then he found a woodcutter. he found a woodcutter and he came to the woodcutter, and the woodcutter was so nice to him, was so generous, and was so uh, respectful, and he invited him to his hut and he gave him fresh water, and the king was very satisfied with that generosity and with his humbleness of that woodcutter, and he wanted to reward the woodcutter because the woodcutter was very poor. So he told him, please come to my palace and I'm going to give you a reward for your generosity. So time has passed, a little time has passed, and then the woodcutter went to visit the king, and the king welcomed him in the palace, and he said, listen, I have a garden full of sandalwood, and I want you to have this garden for yourself. So the woodcutter was happy, and he took the garden for himself. And then he went to the garden, and he did not know the value of the sandalwood. So he chopped it all except one tree. He chopped it all except one tree of sandalwood, and he sold it as wood. And then one day the king was wondering, I wonder what happened to the woodcutter, if he became rich, if he built a house for himself, if he changed his condition. So he went to that garden, and then the woodcutter was there, but he was in the same wretched condition, the same poor condition. And the king asked him, what happened? I gave you a whole garden of very valuable sandalwood, and what happened to it? And he said, I chopped it and I sold it as wood. And the king was very sad to hear that, and he told him that this sandalwood is not to be chopped and sold as wood, as wood for burning, and he took a piece of that tree with him, and they went to the market, and he sold it for very much, a lot of rupees he got from that small piece. And then he repented. He repented very much that he destroyed what the king has given him. And the saints and masters says that this is our condition in this world, that the king represents the master, and we are like that woodcutter, and the sandalwood is like every moment in our life, every moment in our life. And if we destroy it by the fire of worldly pleasures, then it is like cutting, what the woodcutter did to that garden. He destroyed it. He destroyed it, and this is the situation of the human being. The situation of the human being is that he wastes what God has given him, which is the temple of the human body, where God lives, where you can become very rich if you use every moment towards God and the kingdom of God. Sheikh Farid said that if we don't do what we're supposed to do in this life and gain the spiritual wealth, when we go to the court of Lord God, we will be very embarrassed. We will be very embarrassed at the court of Lord God. And Baba Sawan Singh said that each moment is a very valuable jewel. And he said, leave 100 works to go to satsang, and leave 100 important works to go to satsang, and leave 1,000 important works to do your daily meditation. To do that is how much this life is worth. That every moment is a precious jewel that has to be reaped, and not wasted. And if we just waste, that's why we have to keep good company, the company of the saintly people, the company of those who love God. So when we are with them, then we are talking about Master, we are talking about God, and we are reaping that treasure. We are reaping that treasure through satsang, through meditation, and through simran, and listening to the shabd. This is very important. Saint Kirpal says that if you are sick and you cannot move and you are in bed, but you can still crawl on your hands and knees, then go to the satsang, because something is special is given to the satsang. Something is very special given there when two or more gather in my name, that is not found by just meditation by ourselves. So there is a power that sustains this whole universe, that creates this whole universe, sustains this whole universe, and destroys this whole universe. And that is the power of God, the will of God is working. And when the will of God is working, then it sustains us. It sustains us, it nourishes us, and it gives us what we need. There is a story, and what the spiritual people know that, but the people who are extrovert and who look outside, they think that they are the doers, and they are sustaining themselves. And what happens to them is that they are go away and away and away from Father God. Yet the ones that know that He's the doer and every moment is under His control come closer and closer and closer to Him. So that power that sustains us and arranges itself, arranges everything for us. There is also a story from Guru Nanak, and Mardana was sitting with him, and he had a bunch of corn in his hand, and he started to eat the corn. And then Guru Nanak told him, listen, Mardana, one of those seeds does not belong to you. It does not belong to you. It belongs to a hen that lives in Lahore. She would eat that seed. And then Mardana started laughing and said, how would that hen eat that seed? She's in Lahore and I am here, and the corn is in my hand. And Guru Nanak said, well, let's see who's gonna eat that seed of corn, you or the hen. And then as Mardana was trying to put the corn in his mouth, one seed went into his nose. And when the seed went into his nose, he tried to put his hand in and try to take it out. No way. That seed did not come out because that seed belonged to the hen. And then when they went to Lahore, Guru Nanak pointed to the hen and he said, here is the hen, here is the hen, that hen is supposed to eat the seed of corn. And then again Mardana's mind came and he's like, how is she gonna eat the corn? It's in my nose. She cannot eat the corn. And then Guru Nanak said, well, let's see how she's going to eat it. Of course, Father God Almighty is going to arrange something. And at that second, Mardana sneezed. And when he sneezed, the seed flew from his nose and went towards the chicken, and the chicken jumped and ate it. And Guru Nanak was saying that everything, our food, whatever we're supposed to eat, is already arranged for us, and we will either have to travel to it or it will have to come to us. And every destination we're supposed to go, if we're supposed to go there, some power is going to take us there. Some power is going to hold us and take us there. And our food that is meant to us, we will eat that food, and what's not meant for us, we cannot eat that food, just like Mardana. So there's another story that is related to this, and when Guru Nanak was traveling on his travels, and some people received him very, very well, and some people really abused him and stoned him. And one time he went to a village, and the people were very, very, very mean to him, and they threw stones on him. And then he put his hands like that, and he said, I bless you. I bless you. May you stay in this village and live comfortably. Then he went to another village. Then he went to another village, and the people were so nice to him, and they sat around him in a satsang, and they were listening to every word he said, and they appreciated every word he said, and they got his initiation, and they were very, 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 very happy that finally they found the Guru. And then Guru Nanak says, he folded his hand and he said, may the Lord bless you, and may you not stay here. May you become homeless and be scattered everywhere. And then Mardana said, what? What did you say? Why, Guru Nanak, why are you saying that? Why did you say to the people who gave you food, who stoned you, may you stay here comfortably, and the people who accepted you and loved you, why did you want to scatter them? And he said, because they have goodness in them. If I told the people who stoned me that you have to be scattered all over the world, then they will bring evil to the world. But those people who were initiated from me, I want them to spread the seeds of God. I want them to spread the path of the masters. I want them to spread Nam. So that's why I said, may you be scattered. May you be scattered and be homeless. So, and there is another beautiful story about that is related to this from Sant Kirpal. And then Sant Kirpal said that the Lord, when the Lord allotted the food for everybody, he also allotted the food for the saints. he has special food for the saints. But when he put it on the hand of the saints, he kicked the hand, and the food scattered all over the world. That's why Guru Nanak, Ishwar Puri Ji, Sant Singh, Sant Kirpal always are traveling to get their food, to go after their food, because that food, it was supposed to, that food that was scattered all around the world when Father God kicked the hand of the saint. He kicked the hand for a special reason, is that he wanted to scatter the food, and he wanted them to go after that food, and they scatter their goodness, scatter God and the kingdom of God in every place they went. This is what Father God does, that he wants the saints to travel, and he wants them to scatter the seeds of God, the qualities of God, the radiance of God, and everything that God has, to all the seekers of truth that are scattered around the world, as there are lovers of God all around the world. Just like this satsang has people from everywhere, also the lovers of God are everywhere, and that's why the perfect living saint always travels. And you could see last year how Ishwar Puri Ji in his 90s, he was 92 or 93, and then he was traveling. He went to India. Before that, he went to Australia, and he went to New Zealand, and all these places, that because he has to scatter the seeds of love, and he has to get his food also. That it was in these places. So this is my introduction to you today, and I wish all of us the blessings of Ishwar Puri Ji. And now I can't wait to listen to Puneet and see Puneet. And see what he has to share with us, the love for God.
Hello, Brother Michael. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear. Very well.
Good, good, good. All right. So, hello, dear family. Hello, holy family. I'm going to speak today about stories of Sardar Bahadur Jagat Singh Ji. I should rather say it is a short biography of him rather than just stories. And it is a long satsang, so I will speak in two parts. Today is part 1, 8th of September. I will speak again on the 17th of September. So if it feels like the satsang has stopped in the middle abruptly, apologies for that. I've tried my best to give it a nice ending for today. So I've gathered these stories, this short biography, from a satsang which was done in Mumbai in 1981. It was done by Dada Babani ji, and it was in Hindi, so I've tried my best to simplify it for all of us and give it in English. And I'll keep referring to my notes, so please ignore that. So let's start with how he got the title of Sardar Bahadur. So Bahadur or Sardar Bahadur was a title that was given to Indians who made a decent contribution, some extraordinary contribution to the British government, which was ruling in India back then. So it was given to people who did amazing work at war, or at just execution of the work of British government. But Sardar Bahadur Ji got this title not because of some extraordinary work that he did. He got it because of his extraordinary personality. The way he lived life, the perspective he had towards life, and the high morals that he lived with, his beautiful personality, and the fact that he was an amazing role model, got him that title. And we'll get to know more about it through his work in the college where he was a professor. We'll come to that part too. So his father was a landlord and in a village which was not far from the city of Bias, where the Dera is now. So he grew up in that little village very close to Bias. And since childhood, he liked to live, with himself. He wanted to be an introvert, and he did not interact much with people. But he was also very studious. He always scored amazing marks in school. He was always rank 1. And, after school, he got his grade 10 in the same village. Then he moved to the city of Lahore, which is now in Pakistan. And he studied in the Government College of Agriculture where he got his degree in Masters of Science. So, all right. So let's come to the part where we have some numbers at least to understand how old he was. So he was born in 1884, and he requested for initiation from Huzur Maharaj Baba Sawan Singh Ji when he was just 25 years old. He was very young, and he was a bachelor. So, but yes, he was blessed with initiation by him. And uh, okay, so let's talk about more of how he lived life. We'll go through a timeline as such. All right. So he always used to, he lived by his principles. He was a man who stood by his ideals, who had a very strong morale. So he was very simple. He did not have any desires, any needs as such. He wanted to. He was very studious in that sense, very focused. But that seems to be very exactly opposite of how people are nowadays. We think towards materialistic things, and we don't really think of high morals or principles, the way to actually live life. And he was the exact opposite. He had high morals, high standards of life, and almost no needs, no desires. So he started his career as assistant professor of chemistry in the same college where he studied, the Government College of Agriculture. And he went on to become the vice principal one day. And his teaching techniques were very famous. The way he explained things to his students was very simple, was very unique. And the students always understood very easily what he wanted to teach. So the principal of that college was a Britisher, and he was, very surprised. He was very curious with the chit chat going around of his teaching techniques. So he decided one day to, sneak into the class, go in the last bench without getting, noticed, and he listened to one of his lectures. And once the lecture ended, he got to know why people are talking about him so much. What exactly is unique about him? So what he understood after that lecture was that this man speaks very less. He speaks on point, and he speaks in a way that whatever he's trying to teach is directly engraved in the heart of the listener. Once it is taught, it is done. It never escapes out of you. It had a long-lasting impact. So this was like a decent picture of how he was as a human being, as a professor. His early stages of life. Now let's speak about a discipline in his life. So yeah, he was very punctual. His day went around the clock, and he was very precise in things and the timing of those things. He used to wake up in the morning, sit for meditation, and do all his work exactly every day, consistently on the same time. So he had achieved that focus and discipline from very early stages in life. All right, so this became an example for people to follow, for his students to follow. This life of principles of discipline is very inspiring. In fact, his students gave him the title of Guruji, which is very unique. As in back then in Punjab, it was not a usual practice to call college professors as Guruji. But this was a nice backstory to it. So this happened because when his students got to see the actual side of him, the discipline side of him, his incredible personality, his confidence, his physique, his finesse, his methods of teaching. He used to play football with his students, and once he got into the field, he did not for once make his students feel that he's a professor. He became one with his students. He became like a friend, and he used to play football with them. Well, there are many more stories. So, but let's follow a timeline. Otherwise, I will go here and there. Let's speak about one story after his initiation. One day, someone in his neighborhood had passed away. So he was attending a prayer ceremony where they recite a few verses of the Guru Granth Sahib. And Sardarji believed that if something is worth doing, it should be done very well. So when he was there sitting in that prayer ceremony, he listened to every verse very carefully. So because he was so determined and focused, he did not waste time in his day. So if he's sitting in a prayer ceremony, he's listening very carefully. So there came a point where the party recites a verse from the Guru Granth Sahib, which hits him very, very hard. So I cannot recite it in Punjabi. My Punjabi is not good, but I'll tell you the meaning of that verse. It said, "Oh dear one, what you have received, this human life, is very valuable, beyond measure. It is given to you so that you can merge with God. All work other than that is useless. So what should we do? We should live under the shelter of a true Guru. We should live under his love and grace and earn the wealth of Nam." It further said that we should have only one target in life in front of us, to earn the wealth of Nam. Otherwise, we will get stuck in this Maya, we will get stuck in the circle of birth and death. After listening to this Bani, Sardarji's life had completely changed. This was his turning point. So this is how his daily routine changed after that day. College in the morning, come back home and tell his servant to bring fresh food and clothes for him in his room. And then on his way out, he was told to close the room, and he was instructed that you are not supposed to open this door no matter what happens. And then he used to sit for meditation. And unless he is satisfied with his meditation, unless he is witnessing some progress in his meditation, he will not consume food. There were days when he might have not seen any progress, so he did not eat food at all. That was his strict focus and discipline towards meditation. So Maharajji and his family was a landlord, so they had decent income from that business, and he had good salary from the college as well. So he was well to do financially. So he had a vacant room in his home, which was well decorated. So he had, told people who used to visit that small village where he lived, travelers and guests, to feel free to come and stay at his home. And he instructed his servant to, serve the guests well, to provide with anything that they need. So the guests started to come and live at his place. They feel very welcome. They feel very nice, very well comforted. So they used to wonder, who is the owner of this place? Why don't we ever get to see him? So they used to ask the servant, who is the owner? We want to see him. He's so generous. So the servant used to say that, I can provide you anything, but I cannot set up a meeting with him. It's next to him. It's next to impossible. So there was this certain guest who lived there, who lived in his home for a decent amount of time, and he was about to leave. But coincidentally, one day, when he was about to leave, Sardarji had came back from college, and that's when they got to speak. He had the opportunity to meet him. So Sardarji asked him, where is he coming from? So he said, I'm coming from a city a little far away. So Sardarji said, he offered him to stay at his home. And the servant was about to leave, about to go back home. He said, Sardarji, I have been living here for 18 days and I'm about to go back home now. So this is what it was. They both did not know about each other. He locked himself in his room and he was there. Nothing else. That is how his life had become, college to home, home to college, no other street, nothing else. I'll continue with, okay. So, coming on to the part that he had no desires, no needs, he, even the salary that he received, he gave the salary away to his friend, his colleague, Pandit Lal Chand Ji. And once he gave away that salary to him, he forgot about it. How it was utilized, who it was given to, how much is left, what happened to it. No questions, no queries. He just forgot about it. So he was really trying, to set up a perfect surrender for himself. Now it was time for his marriage. And in those days, parents in India, they used to set up arranged marriages back when, kids are very small. So they used to get the little kids engaged. And once they had grown up, they are ready for marriage, they would get them married. So now Sardarji did not want to get married. He did not, he had this very fair argument. So when his family tried to pursue him to marry the girl, he used to say that the Guru Granth Sahib says, you have to earn the wealth of Naam. It does not mention anywhere about marriage. I do not want to marry. So the family, got worried. They went to the great master because no one else would marry the girl because she was already engaged to him. So they had to go to great master. They told great master that he is not willing to marry. So then great master called Sardarji and he told him that all saints got married, all saints had children, and you have to get married too. Consider this as my order. He had to use the word order, hukum. So because the thing is, if a disciple cannot obey an order of the master, he is of no use. So he had to obey the command of his master. So he had to get married. He also had a child who later on became very successful in life. So the best part was that Sardarji's wife also is very noble. She was also an initiate of Baba Sawan Singh Ji. So they both meditated a lot together. So now let's go forward to the time when he retired and he got, started getting his pension. So after retirement, he went to the Dera. He went to the city of Byas. And great master gave him the seva at Langar. So he was in charge of making sure that everyone who visits gets to eat, that they get enough to eat. And if there are any complaints about the food, he would, take care of them. And then he was also made in charge of writing foreign letters to the British government with another sevadar. So Sardarji used to go for a walk every day in the evening at 6 o'clock. But he used to go alone. No, he did not like any company, because when you're walking alone, you get the opportunity to do Simran. But if you're walking with someone else, you get trapped in a conversation, and that conversation turns to gossip. So he did not like to, go with someone for a walk. Even if his friend Panditji used to walk with him, he would tell him that you do your business, I'll do my business. Let's not talk to each other. Let's walk. So that was his discipline towards, opportunities in finding, Simran and doing dhyan. So he had no desires and no needs. He didn't feel like asking for anything. So he sat into dhyan at every single opportunity that he could find. Even if he was going from one room to the other, he would close his eyes for 1 second and go into dhyan for that 1 second. He did not leave one opportunity to get into dhyan and remember his master. Even if it is something as simple as climbing stairs, cooking something, or going out for a walk, he went into dhyan at every single opportunity that he could find. So this basically the best part about stories of Sardar Bahadur Jagat Singh Ji is that he sets, he gives us a way to look at life before initiation, after initiation, and he also gives us, a look into what is life before becoming a PLM and after becoming a PLM. And then you get to see that there is actually no difference, which we'll get to in the next talk. So basically, he was already prepared since childhood that he wants to go back to his true home, and the determination was very evident. So this is what basically we have spoken about. We spoke about his childhood, how he was studious, how he got into college, became a professor with his unique teachings. He got that title of Sardar Bahadur, and then we got to his marriage. We got to how he did not want to marry, and then he had to marry because of the command of the master. Then we got to the part that he moved to the Dera. So I was wondering, actually, when he moved to the Dera, he must be living with Dr. Julian Johnson, even Ishwar Puri ji, because that's what the time, right? That was the time when he, roughly moved to the Dera. So it's pretty interesting if we could hear some stories from BB Raj or someone else, from that time, or even from Ishwarji himself. We should write emails to him, asking him to describe stories of Jagat Singh ji, because it was roughly the same time when they were all living together. Dr. Ishwar Singh, Dr. Ishwar ji, uh, Sardar Bahadur Jagat Singh ji, Dr. Julian Johnson, Charan Singh ji Maharaj. So they all lived in one place in the city of Byas. Imagine what stories we would get to hear from them. So, I can just speak about Sardar Bahadur Jagat Singh ji, and I would continue my talk on the 17th of September. So, yes, I'm sorry if this has abruptly ended. I will do much better next time. Thank you, Brother Michael.
Thank you, Puneet. I loved your talk. New information to me, so I learned something new about.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you. So now we can do 5 minutes of meditation together to prepare ourselves to watch our Holy Master Ishwar Puri Ji. And then after that, we will meditate all together and get his blessings extra. Okay, 5 minutes of meditation.
of our Mandara of great master Hazur Maharaj Baba Sawan Singh Ji, my master. You have been watching, some of you, on YouTube. How many of you watched on YouTube? Very good. Now Mark has put up a YouTube here also. Looking at that looks like watching YouTube. I think Mark has done a good job. So many of you have come only because of the YouTube, I guess. How many have come only because you saw me on YouTube? Wow, that's Mark. Let's give a round of applause to Mark. Thank you, Mark. In the last few days, I have been covering some very important subjects on the path of the masters. I have explained why it is important, very important, to have a living master, a perfect living master, if you really want to go back home to your true home, Sachkhand. If your intention is different, if your goal is different, you don't have to look for that. You don't have to wait for that. There are many other ways to attain your goals. If you want to just have little peace of mind, you can play nice music. They even have now meditational music. I heard it, they played it for me, and I felt very nice and calm. It's good music. But it's an outside music. It's not a music that takes you inside. To get the music inside, you have to be guided by somebody who hears and tells you how to hear the music inside. If you do not have a living perfect master, if you do not have a living master, then the only master you can have is your own mind. People talk to me about their masters being ascended masters sitting in the Himalayas. I don't think so many people have gone to the Himalayas as I have. I was posted there, I was working there, I had a job there in the Himalayas. I met a lot of masters and met a lot of them, and I asked them, are you working to help people who are living in the United States? None of them said yes. They said, we are doing our duty right here, around us, whoever is around us. We are working for them, not for people living in another continent. And yet the belief is there is some master speaking in our head, telling us what to do. That's all our mind. Some people say they can get guidance from nature. Even birds speak to them. Dogs, cats, they speak to them and give them guidance. But don't they realize that the interpretation of what they are saying is all of your own mind? Is guidance by your own mind. Some people say there are angels around us, and the angels guide us. All your own mind. The power of the mind cannot be underestimated. It can dupe you into feeling that a master is somewhere helping you, whereas your own mind. And why is that a problem? Because the mind does not want you to go beyond itself. The mind is the biggest wall between you and your true home. Indeed, there is no other wall. If you ask me, is there something, an obstacle coming in the way between you and your true home, Sachkhand? The only obstacle I could point out is the mind. Therefore, if you make mind your master, you're not likely to make much headway for going to your true home. Therefore, a living master is essential. Any master who says, go within, is guiding you in the right direction. It does not matter how perfect he is or imperfect he is. At least he is guiding you in the right direction. If you are guided in the right direction and you like it, but you don't go too far, you can get guidance from another master who will come your way. If your seeking still continues, for the true home, a perfect living master will come into your life and take you back. That's the secret. Secret is to seek, and you will find. Therefore, keep seeking. Seeking in your heart. not running around. You can run around for learning more things, you can read books to learn more things, but running around and reading more books won't lead you inside. A perfect living master will take you inside. I've been emphasizing this point in the last few days, and I'm emphasizing it again, that if you don't have a perfect living master, you don't go home. Now, there is a distinct possibility. A master who only pulls his attention to an out-of-body experience and is able to see his astral body calls it the true home. The astral plane is a very vast plane. It has got so many layers within itself, about 1,000 layers within itself, that you could roam around and say, this is stage 1, this is stage 2, this is stage, I've come to Sachkhand. There's no way that a master can say, no, you have not reached Sachkhand, because you say, this is exactly what I thought it would be like. All the dead relatives of mine are here, everybody's here, I can do work, there's no gravity, this is exactly what I thought. Because our thought cannot comprehend our true home. Our thought stops with time and space. Our thought cannot imagine anything beyond that. But whatever is within time and space has a definite life and will finish. It's not immortal. Immortality is beyond time and space. Therefore, it's very, very important that if you want to go beyond to your true home, the reason for going to your true home being that you have had enough of this world. If you haven't had enough of this world, stay on. It's not necessary. Or if you haven't had enough of this world and you want to have the world, but your curiosity is there something beyond? Go in and find out. So there are many different approaches to discovery of your own self. The self is the only reality. All else is made up. All else is illusion. All else is created by the self. The self is consciousness per se. Totality of consciousness is the self. All regions, including our true home, Sachkhand, has been made up by the self. Even higher planes than the self have been made up by the self. People talk of Alak, Agam, Anami, even higher than Sachkhand, all made up by the self. Excuse me, I'll take one of these for my throat. Now, if my voice looks a little different, it's because I've got a lozenge in my mouth. The experience that can be created by the self is unlimited. It can create anything because its whole power is to be conscious, and it can be conscious of anything. Consciousness operates as the most creative power, that whatever it wants to be conscious of, it becomes a creation. And that is why it can create everything, including permanence, including immortality, including time and space, including all universes, including Sachkhand, including Akhag, Lakh, Agam, and Anami. I have been talking for 3 days about Sachkhand, our true home. Some of you might wonder, what are these 3 new names I'm taking up? They are not new. They have been recorded earlier also, and people have spoken about them. Alak means which cannot be, Lakhya, which cannot be described, cannot be written, cannot be spoken of. So it's beyond all speech, or beyond all description. Agam is which cannot be known. It can't even be known, and still it's a stage of consciousness. Anami is cannot even be named. You can't even think of a name for it. What are these 3 stages? These 3 stages have been created by the self, by consciousness, for the totality of consciousness to experience, to generate all other experiences by individualization and what we call is devolving into lower levels of consciousness. This is the place where the creator enjoys working on ideas, as it were, to make the rest of the world, make the rest of the regions of the universe. It is not meant for a soul. No soul has ever gone to these regions. The only way for a soul to go to that region is to first go merge in Sat Purush, the totality, and then experience those as totality. Those three highest regions, described as Alakh, Agam, and Anami, are regions for the Sat Purush to travel, not for souls. Souls merge and become Sat Purush at Sachkhand. But whatever they are, the whole point is that every endeavor we are making on the spiritual path is to discover the self. The self cannot be hidden. The self is always there, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what you are, no matter whether you are something or nothing. The self is always there. It's the self that will tell you are something, the self tells you you are nothing, the self tells you where you are. Self is the conscious power inside us, and it's called the soul, when it's individuated and looks like one amongst the many. When it doesn't look like one amongst the many and becomes one and total, it becomes Sat Purush, the totality of consciousness, the true being. Sat Purush means the true being. The true being lives in true land, Satlok, Sachkhand. So this idea that our aim, ultimate aim of some of us, and people sitting here are some of us. In this big world, we are just some of us. Some of us want to go beyond the mind to our true home. That's only possible with the company of a perfect living master and being initiated by a perfect living master. I mentioned yesterday that initiation is not teaching of a method of meditation. I teach them every time. I teach people how to meditate every time. That doesn't mean they are initiated. People teach all over the world. People are teaching the same thing. That's not initiation. Initiation has very little to do with teaching. Initiation, a perfect living master, discovering a soul, wanting, seeking to go back home, finds that soul in an embodiment, a human form, and guarantees, I will take you back home. That's it. That's initiation. Initiation is that when a perfect living master guarantees this, he places himself inside the head of that disciple, so that disciple can have access to that master whenever he or she wants. Not only that, he guarantees that from the third eye center where he sits waiting for us, he will take us together with him, not alone. He is not a master who says, okay, I can show you the way, now you go. Somebody sent me a cartoon in which there's a little girl and a big dark hole, and the master standing and says, jump in. I didn't say I'll take you. I only told you how to go. And she's afraid of jumping in. It's just a caricature to show some masters give guidance like that. That we have not come to put anything inside you, we just come to tell you the way, and how you find your way. That's not the way the perfect living masters operate. That's not their guarantee. Perfect living masters take responsibility to take you back home. Therefore, if your desire is to go back home, perfect living master, living in a human form, like ourselves, with whom we can talk and converse and ask questions and play and run together, that kind of a master. A master who's so removed from us that we can't even talk to him, we can't even have a conversation, how are we going to have that friendship that we are used to? They say a master is the best friend you can find. What kind of friendship it is? Don't you think that if the master is invisible somewhere else, that we are only talking to our own mind again? How do we have that kind of friendship? Unless we have manifested a master inside, then the friendship is always there, day and night. But if we haven't manifested, how can we say that he is a friend? We can say he's a master, We can't say he's a friend. And yet I keep on saying, a perfect living master is the best friend you can have. His unconditional love in this life and other lives is unparalleled with any experience that you can have. When I talk like that, I am not talking of some shadow or something that's not accessible to you. I am talking of something that's right here, accessible, like yourself, at the same level as yourself. You will notice that these masters come at a certain social level, and they adjust that social level according to the disciple. Because if it is too high or too low, you can't have friendship. The very idea that it is love and devotion that will take you back makes a master come to your level. Because you cannot have love and devotion with something that is so high or so low, you can't even feel close to it. It has to be so close that you feel, this is exactly my friend, my pal first. When we have time, and I said I'll tell you a lot of stories of the Dera, I'll be talking about a veterinary doctor, Dr. Ishar Singh, whose stories you might have heard before. He told me after a lifelong of following the great master, he says, I realize master is a friend first and master afterwards. He said, I discovered he's a yar first and guru afterwards. His discovery, and he was great, very great disciple of great master. So how can you be friend to somebody who's not even accessible? So that's why a perfect living master who can guide you and be a part of your life and manifest in you so that you can have access to him is necessary for making spiritual progress to your true home. I said yesterday, you don't have to worry about the status of the master, how far he has gone or not. He'll take you as far as he can. You will automatically come to know how far he has gone because you will still want to go more. If you're a seeker of your true home, your seeking will still continue even after the master has taken you to his limit. I remember the story I've repeated many times of another friend of mine. He was an engineer in Burma, now Myanmar. Burmese doctor, he was an engineer, Trilok Chand. His name was Trilok Chand. Trilok Chand lived in Memio, Rangoon, some places there, and he was very keen to find a perfect master. He heard a perfect master can give us Simran, can give us sound, and he can take us back home. He searched for masters, whoever came to his hometown. Then he found there was a master who could give him that, but he lived in Madras, now called Chennai, in India, a town, South Indian town, Madras. And he found that there was a Swami who could do that. So, Trilok Chand, who was a very miserly person, he was just an employee of the government as an engineer, so he didn't have a big salary, but he kept on saving because his rule was, if you have a rupee in your hand or a dollar in your hand, you should look at the dollar and say, should I spend or not spend? Should I spend or not spend? And then say not spend and put it back in your pocket. With this lifestyle, he collected maybe about 30,000 rupees in his bank account. So he wouldn't touch that because that was his saving. But he spent part of the money to go to Madras and meet that Swami. And when he met the Swami was very impressive. He had a lot of people around him. He said, Swamiji, I am the Trilok Chand engineer, come from Burma, I heard about you, and I want to go home. Will you take me to enlightenment, to true enlightenment? Swamiji said, yes, I can. And Swamiji said, have you heard the story of King Janak and Ashtabakar? He said, yes, sir, I heard the story. He said, I can tell you again. How many of you have heard the story? How many have never heard the story? Oh, you stand. I should repeat it, I think. This is just a deviation from the story of Trilok Chand into the story of King Janak, who was a king in India and very, very keen to find enlightenment. And he asked his ministers, his secretaries, advisors, how can I find somebody who can give me enlightenment? And they said, Your Majesty, this country you are living in is full of gurus, full of yogis, swamis, and they are all enlightened people. All you have to do is to hold a yag, hold a festival, and call them over, a religious festival, give them good food, they love food, good food, especially rice pudding. Anyway, that's a separate matter. And have a nice feast for them, and they will come, and you check with them, they will enlighten you. So the king held a big feast in his palace, and all the swamis and yogis were invited, and they came, and he had a one-day big festival. And the king put up tents for them, and he disguised himself as an ordinary tourist. He did not tell them he was the king. And as an incognito, in disguise, he moved amongst those yogis and swamis and learned pandits. And he found that they were all arguing with each other, that they got angry with each other. They said, no, I am right. The book says this. Another person said, no, book says this. It doesn't mean this. And he saw sometime they would come to blows. He says, what kind of enlightenment do they have? They may be very learned. They have read the books. They remember the books. But they are not enlightened. They have nothing real in them. They don't have real knowledge. Enlightenment means real knowledge, not this kind of learning. So he felt very disappointed after spending the whole day walking around incognito amongst them. So he came back to the palace and he told his secretaries and his advisors and ministers, I am very disappointed. I thought that these people were enlightened. They are not. They are learned. They have read a lot. They repeat a lot. But they don't know what's going on inside. They can't take me anywhere with true knowledge. I want true knowledge. And I want instant true knowledge. I think he was an American in his past life. He wanted instant true knowledge. Americans want everything instant. Anyway, the advisors and secretaries said, Your Majesty, we had only a one-day affair. Only local yogi swamis could come. Have a 7-day affair. Then, and by beat of drum, we'll announce in the whole country, all the yogis and swamis to come, and all masters and gurus to come. So he said, okay, maybe it was a small group, they didn't know anything. The larger group may know. So then he called all of them. And he had a big tentage and a big township set up for them. And they all came staying in their own tents and having food cooked by the king's chefs. And the king again put himself in incognito and disguise, and he moved all of them. Every day he would move to find one of them should know what is enlightenment. And 7 days passed, and he met hundreds of those swamis and yogis, and he found it just a repetition of that one-day event. They were all learned people. They all had read books. They were quoting books, but none of them could give true knowledge that the king was seeking. He was so disappointed. He came back to the palace. He said, I don't think anybody is enlightened. It's just a game that people play. Then the ministers and secretaries and advisors said, King, if you want that kind of enlightenment, there is a man, he won't come to your feast. He's sitting on the bank of the river. And his name is Ashtabakar. Ashtabakar means 8 folds. He is a hunchback. And the 8 folds on his back. His body is a little deformed and crooked, but his eyes are very sharp. You will go, he will give you the real enlightenment and real knowledge, true knowledge that you're looking for. The king said, why didn't you tell me first? I wasted all that time with these other swamis and gurus and all. So he went to Ashtabakar, and Ashtabakar was sitting in a little hut, a perfect living master, sitting in a little hut with the 4 or 5 of his disciples. And when the king came, Ashtabakar got up. Majesty, what has brought you here? He says, I have not come as the king. I have come as a beggar. I have come to get true, instant true knowledge. Will you come to my palace and give me that knowledge? He said, certainly, king, if you have invited me, I will come. So the king set up an appointment that Ashtabakar, the mystic, will come to his palace. He invited all his nobles, relatives, neighboring kings, neighboring princes and princesses, and all of them came. And he filled up his whole auditorium with that great noble and royal audience, and put up 2 chairs on the dais, one for himself and one for the mystic, for the master. Ashtabakar came accompanied by 7 or 8 of his disciples. He got to the door and he took off his shoes. And they all took off their shoes. That was customary, to take off shoes when you go to this kind of an event. And as Ashtabakar walked, people looked at him. Said, this deformed guy is going to give us enlightenment? What kind of mistake this king is making? Look at his body, look at him. They mocked at him and derisively looked at him. And he walked up slowly, and king welcomed him and put him next to him on the dais. And then Ashtabakar says, king, what is the price of leather today? The king says, master, I invited you here to give us a discourse and enlighten us. What has leather to do with it? He said, are they not all leather merchants over here? He said, no, master, they are royalty, nobility. They are all prince and princesses and my relatives and courtiers here. There are no leather merchants here. He said, well, the way they were looking at my body and my skin, I thought they might be dealing in skin and leather. Then the audience realized this guy has a sense of humor. And they kept quiet and began to listen to him. He said, king, Ashtabakar said, king, what kind of knowledge do you want? He said, I want real, true knowledge, and I want it in an instant. Ashtabakar said, king, you have to pay a price for that. Are you ready to pay the price? He said, master, any price. My treasury and coffers are open. You name the price, I will give it. He said, I want 3 things. He said, master, you can have 10, 20, whatever you want. Only 3 things I want. Give me your body, give me your wealth, and give me your mind. When you're given these 3 things to me, I'll give you instant knowledge. The king thought, strange price tag, but he was so keen to get this enlightenment. He said, master, my body is yours, at your disposal. All my wealth is yours, right now. I'm publicly announcing. And my mind is also yours. Now give me instant knowledge. Master said, are you sure you have given these 3 things to me? Yes, master. Is this body of yours, king, is mine now? I can put it wherever I like? Yes, master. Okay, take this body of yours, which now belongs to me, walk over to the door where I took off my shoes, and place your body on those shoes. The king got up and started walking, and everybody said, what kind of enlightenment is this? What kind of lecture is this guy giving, asking the king to just go sit on his shoes? And they began to murmur again. And the king, while walking, said, you know, these people don't know what I'm trying to get. They are looking at my palaces and my wealth and all that, that I'm a big king, and how can I do this? When this thought came to him, Ashtabakar shouted from the stage, king, you have no business to think about your wealth and palaces. You've given them to me. He said, oh my God, I forgot that. I forgot. I've given my palaces and wealth to the king. Ashtabakar shouted, king, you have no business to think what you gave or not gave. That's a thought. You've given your mind to me. And he put his hand on his head. He said, I can't even think. At that moment, he got enlightenment. And Ashtabakar said, king, come back. Don't have to sit on the shoes. Come back and sit on your chair now. King came back. He said, did you get the enlightenment you were looking for? Yes, master. Are you sure? Yes, master. You said an instant. And you said to me before I asked you about an instant that an instant is when you step on the stirrup of a horse and jump on the saddle, that's an instant for you. Was this done in an instant? He said, Master, less than an instant. So he said, now, King Janak, you got a glimpse of what enlightenment is. And you are satisfied. Do you still have any questions? He said, I have no questions. He said, if you have no questions, you are satisfied, then you know you are enlightened. This is a sampling of what exists inside. Now I'll tell you, I'll initiate you, and you meditate for 20 years, and you'll get the same enlightenment again. He said, Master, I found what I was looking for. This is the story of King Janak and Ashtabakar. And Trilok Chand was told by that Swamiji, do you know this story?
My dear Holy Family, I sent the video to the announcement group. You can continue watching it there if you like, but now it's time to meditate. So if we can forget about the body below, the world outside, and come up here to the third eye center where Master is waiting with open arms, and hold his hand, repeat the Simran of the holy name slowly at intervals with the tongue of the thought, and try to listen to what your mind is repeating. Have few nice words for the Master. I wish you the best meditation. I hope to see you tomorrow for another holy day in Holy Father God, and I will keep Zoom on for 20 minutes.